The phone call was brief, but it filled the empty space in my chest. I didn't need to say much. He knew the weight of my words, the quiet desperation in my voice. When I hung up, I sat there for a while, the phone still in my hand, the buzzing silence of the house around me. It felt like the walls were closing in, the air too thick to breathe, but I didn't care. Not anymore. I stood up and walked to the window again. The SUV was gone, and with it, my family. The sun had dipped behind the horizon, leaving only a faint orange glow on the distant hills. The house felt too big, too empty without them. Without their voices echoing through the hallways, without the sound of their laughter bouncing off the walls. I shook my head, trying to shake off the thoughts. I wasn't going to sit here and wallow. Not tonight. There were things to be done, plans to be made. I went into the kitchen again, picked up the last of the dishes from dinner, and put them away. I wasn't going to let their words linger. I wasn't going to let them have power over me. I wasn't a man to be pitied. The clock ticked on, the minutes crawling by as I walked around the house. I found myself in the living room, staring at the pictures on the wall. Family portraits, vacation photos, Christmas mornings. They were all there, reminders of better days, happier times. But none of it mattered now. The years of sacrifice, the years of giving. They meant nothing when the people you gave everything to walked out of your life without a second thought. I sat down on the couch and grabbed the remote, flicking through channels aimlessly until I landed on an old movie I'd seen 100 times. It didn't matter. I wasn't watching it anyway. I thought about Sarah and David, about Jennifer, their faces, their voices, the way they had acted like they were doing me a favor by excluding me from the trip. It stung, deeper than I wanted to admit, but I wasn't going to let them see it. I wasn't going to let them see how much it hurt, how much it tore at me, at my pride. I took a deep breath and turned off the TV. I needed to get out of this house. I needed to do something. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. The night air was crisp, cool against my skin as I stepped outside. I didn't know where I was going, just that I needed to get away. I couldn't stay here, not after everything. I walked down the street, past houses that looked like mine, with their neatly trimmed lawns and bright lights shining from within. The world around me seemed so normal, so peaceful. But I didn't feel that way. Not anymore. My feet took me to the park at the end of the block. It was quiet, empty, the playground swings swaying gently in the breeze. I sat on a bench, my hands in my pockets, staring out at the darkened trees. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to check it to know who it was. Sarah. I ignored it. I didn't need to hear her voice right now. I didn't need her apology, her explanations. It was too late for that. The phone buzzed again. This time, I took it out and turned it off. I wasn't interested in their excuses, their fake concern. If they couldn't see what they were doing to me, then they didn't deserve my attention. I stood up from the bench and started walking again, my feet carrying me in no particular direction. I didn't care. All I could think about was the favor I'd asked for, the one call I'd made. There was a certain kind of man who would do what I needed, a man who knew how to handle things, a man who didn't ask questions. He owed me, and I knew he'd come through. He always did. I wasn't proud of it, but I was done being the nice guy. I was done playing by their rules. It was time to take control. I stopped walking, the weight of my decision pressing on me like a stone. But it wasn't too late to change things. It wasn't too late to show them, to show Sarah, to show David, to show Jennifer, that I wasn't someone they could just push aside. I had the power. I turned and made my way back home. The house was quiet when I returned, just as I had left it, but I could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me. The absence of voices, the lack of laughter. The place felt hollow, empty without them. I went upstairs to my bedroom and opened the closet. The clothes I had worn on the last family vacation were still hanging there, untouched. They felt like relics now, relics of a life I no longer recognized. I ran my fingers over the fabric, feeling the coolness of the material, the faint scent of old cologne. I turned away and went to the dresser, opening the drawer where I kept the old letters. The ones from Sarah when she was little, from David when he was in college. I hadn't looked at them in years, but tonight, for some reason, I needed to. I pulled out a letter from Sarah, written in her childish handwriting, a simple note that read, "I love you, Dad. You're the best." I laughed bitterly. The words felt hollow now. A lie. I didn't want to dwell on the past. Not tonight. I closed the drawer and walked over to the desk. I sat down in the chair, the same one I had sat in countless times before. It was worn now, the leather cracking at the seams. I stared at the phone again, still turned off. I thought about the call I had made, about the favor I had asked for. I wasn't sure how it would all play out, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to be left behind again. Not by Sarah. Not by David. Not by anyone. I opened my laptop and began typing. It wasn't a letter, not exactly. It was more of a plan, a way to fix things. I wasn't sure where it would take me, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a purpose again, like I was in control, and that was a feeling I hadn't had in years. I sent the email, closed the laptop, and leaned back in my chair. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, I would take back what was mine, and no one was going to stop me. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The day dragged on in a kind of sickening monotony. Each ring of the phone was like a hammer striking against my resolve, but I didn't pick up. I wouldn't. I had made my decision the night before, and I wasn't going to let them erode it with guilt trips or excuses. By noon, I had put the phone on silent. The constant vibration of the incoming calls was like a low hum in the background, almost forgotten as I focused on the tasks in front of me. I had work to do, and I wasn't going to waste the day stewing in regret or second-guessing myself. I spent the afternoon in the study, going through old papers and receipts. It was a productive distraction, and it kept my mind busy. I didn't want to think about the desperate panic I had heard in Sarah's voice. I didn't want to imagine them stuck at the airport, desperate and scrambling for a solution. But I did think about it. A part of me couldn't help it. I had given them everything, all my time, all my energy, all my resources. And for what? To watch them throw it all away in favor of their own convenience? They hadn't even spared a thought for me, not really. Not until they needed something, until their plan had fallen apart. I stopped flipping through the papers and looked out the window. The sun was low in the sky now, casting long shadows across the yard. The world outside seemed to be carrying on as usual. Birds flew overhead, a couple of kids played in the street, their laughter carrying on the breeze. For a moment, it almost felt like things were normal. Almost. The phone buzzed again, and I glanced at it, but I didn't pick up. The caller ID was Sarah's name again. I stared at it for a moment, watching the name blink on the screen before I turned it face down. I was done. The rest of the day passed like that. The house was silent, empty. I tried not to think about what had happened earlier. I focused on the small, mundane tasks, cleaning the kitchen, watering the plants, folding laundry, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind occupied. Around 6:00 p.m., I finally caved. I needed to eat. My stomach was growling, but I couldn't bring myself to cook a full meal. I didn't have the appetite for it. Instead, I made a sandwich and ate it in front of the TV, the sound of the news droning in the background. At 8:30, there was a knock on the door. It wasn't a gentle knock either. It was hard, insistent. I stood up from the couch, feeling my heartbeat speed up, but I didn't hesitate. I knew who it was. I opened the door. There they stood. Sarah, David, and Jennifer. Their faces were tight, pinched, with dark circles under their eyes. They looked exhausted, and for a brief moment a flicker of something, remorse maybe, flashed across Sarah's face. "Dad," she said, her voice hoarse. "Please, can we talk?" I didn't invite them in. I just stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching them. The night air was cool, and they looked out of place on my doorstep in their vacation clothes, their bags still packed in the car. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice level, betraying none of the emotions that threatened to rise up in me. We don't know what happened," David started. "The bank, the tickets. We didn't know about the credit cards being taken off your account." "Of course you didn't," I said quietly. "I didn't tell you, did I? I didn't give you a heads up before I made the call." Sarah shifted uncomfortably, biting her lip. "Dad, we didn't mean for things to go like this. We thought you'd understand." "Understand?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Understand that after everything, you thought you could just push me aside? Leave me out of the family vacation without a second thought? All for the sake of your active plans? You thought I'd be okay with that?" "We never wanted to hurt you," Jennifer said, stepping forward, her hand on David's arm. "We just thought it would be easier. We thought you wouldn't mind staying home, that it would be better for everyone." I looked at Jennifer, then back at David and Sarah. The frustration that had been building up inside me all day started to boil over. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself before I spoke. "You thought it would be better for everyone?" I asked. "What about me, huh? What about how I've been there for all of you? What about all the times I helped you out? All the sacrifices I made so you wouldn't have to struggle?" "I know," Sarah said, her voice quieter now. "We know, Dad, and we're sorry. We didn't think it through." I shook my head. "You never do. You never think about anyone but yourselves." David stepped forward, his hand still on Jennifer's arm. "Dad, please, we need your help. We don't have enough money to get back home. We can't stay here forever." "Then go back to the airport," I said flatly. "Figure it out. You're adults, right?" "But," Sarah started, but I held up a hand to stop her. "I'm not going to keep bailing you out, Sarah. I'm not going to let you use me anymore. If you want to make this right, you'll do it on your own. No more handouts. No more co-signing. No more putting me in a position where I'm the one to clean up your mess." The silence stretched out between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, Sarah spoke again, her voice trembling slightly. "We really messed up, didn't we?" "Yeah," I said, my voice steady, cold. "You did." I took a step back, moving toward the door. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I've had a long day, and I'm tired. I suggest you find a way to fix this yourselves." I didn't wait for a response. I didn't need one. I just closed the door behind me. That night, I went to bed early. I turned off my phone, pulled the covers up, and closed my eyes, trying to block out the thoughts that kept creeping in. I didn't want to think about Sarah and David and Jennifer. I didn't want to think about how they had looked at me, like I was the one who had done something wrong. But I couldn't stop it. Their faces lingered in my mind, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to feel something other than anger. There was a part of me, a small part, that wanted to reach out, that wanted to forgive them, that wanted to take them in and make everything right again. But then I remembered their voices on the phone, their arrogance, their indifference, and I knew, deep down, that I was making the right choice. I couldn't keep enabling them. I couldn't let them treat me like a doormat anymore. Tomorrow they'd figure it out. Tomorrow they'd learn what it meant to stand on their own. They came to my house that evening, all four of them, Sarah, her husband Mike, David, and Jennifer. I watched through the window as they parked on the street, as they walked up my driveway with their shoulders hunched against the cold November rain. I opened the door before they could knock. "We need to talk," David said. "Come in." I stepped aside, let them file into my living room. Nobody sat down. "What you did today was unacceptable," Jennifer started. She had a way of talking, this one, like she was addressing a child who'd misbehaved. "You embarrassed us in front of everyone at the airport. You made us look like fools." "I didn't make you look like anything," I said. "I simply took back what was mine." "You can't just pull something like that without warning," Mike added. He was a lawyer, always had an opinion. "There are legal ramifications to breaking financial agreements." "No agreements were broken. I was a voluntary guarantor. I voluntarily removed myself, all perfectly legal." I'd checked that morning with Walter Chen, my attorney, the one I'd kept on retainer for 20 years, the one they didn't know about. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "How could you do this to your own family?" "My family uninvited me from a vacation I paid for because I'd slow them down. My family made that decision without discussing it with me. So I made a decision without discussing it with you. Seems fair." "It's not the same thing," David protested. "Isn't it?" Jennifer stepped forward. "You're being petty and vindictive. This is about punishing us because your feelings got hurt." Something in my chest tightened. 32 years. 32 years I'd worked 60-hour weeks at the factory, then at the consulting firm after I got my degree at night school. 32 years of missing sleep, missing meals, missing my own life so they could have theirs. And it all came down to hurt feelings. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out of my house. All of you." "Dad, come on," David started. "Now." They left. Mike muttered something about lawyers as he walked past. Jennifer's face was red with anger. Sarah cried dramatically in the doorway. I closed the door and locked it. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "It's done. The accounts are isolated. Call me when you're ready for phase 2. I deleted the message and poured myself a bourbon. 3 weeks later, David showed up alone. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was in the garage working on an old motorcycle I'd bought at an estate sale. "Dad?" I looked up from the carburetor. "David. Can we talk?" I wiped my hands on a rag. "Sure." He stepped into the garage, looking uncomfortable. My son was 31 years old, a certified public accountant with a good job downtown. He looked like his mother. Same eyes, same way of holding his shoulders when he was nervous. "Jennifer doesn't know I'm here," he said. "Okay." I wanted to apologize. For the Hawaii thing. It wasn't right. I know that now. I waited. "But Dad, you have to understand. Jennifer, she's been talking a lot about how you're getting older, how you might need to think about your future, about downsizing maybe, moving into a smaller place. My future. She's worried. We both are. This house is too big for one person. You're here all alone." I understood then. I understood perfectly. "Jennifer thinks I should sell this house." David shifted his weight. "Not just her. I mean, it makes sense, right? You could move into a nice condo, something with less maintenance. And the equity from this place, you could use that for retirement, for healthcare costs down the road." "I see. There's a place we found. Maple Grove Estates. It's really nice, Dad. Assisted living, but the independent kind. You'd have your own apartment, activities, people your age. Assisted living. I was 56 years old. "And the money from selling this house?" I asked. David's face reddened slightly. "Well, obviously you'd keep most of it. But we thought since Jennifer and I are trying to buy a bigger place, for when we have kids, maybe you could help with the down payment, as an investment. You'd be investing in your grandchildren's future. Grandchildren you don't have yet. We're trying, and the doctors say it might be expensive. IVF, all that. Insurance doesn't cover everything." I set down my tools. "Let me make sure I understand. You want me to sell the house I've lived in for 30 years, move into an old folks' home, and give you the money so you can buy a bigger house and pay for fertility treatments." It's not like that, David said quickly. It's just, Jennifer thinks it makes sense, from a financial planning perspective. Jennifer thinks, Dad, please, we're family, we help each other. I looked at my son for a long moment. You should go now. Dad. Go home, David. Tell your wife the answer is no. He left without another word. I went back to the motorcycle, but my hands were shaking too badly to work. I sat on the concrete floor of my garage and felt something crack inside my chest, something that had been holding on by threads for years. I made another phone call. Sarah's wedding had been 3 years ago. David's was scheduled for May, 8 months away. Jennifer had been planning it since the day he proposed. She'd sent me dozens of emails with color swatches, menu options, venue photographs. I'd nodded and smiled and written checks when they asked. The invitation arrived in early December. Formal, expensive cardstock. Mr. and Mrs. David Thompson request the honor of your presence. I was listed as father of the groom. There was a note tucked inside in Jennifer's handwriting. Dad Thompson, we're so excited for you to be part of our special day. We've reserved a seat for you in the 3rd row. We thought you'd be more comfortable there than in the front with your knees. Also, we've arranged for someone to help you in and out of the car at the venue. Love, Jennifer and David. 3rd row, at my own son's wedding, with a handler. I called David that night. About the wedding, I said. Dad, hey, did you get the invitation? Isn't it beautiful? Jennifer worked so hard on those. I'm in the 3rd row. Silence. Well, yeah. Jennifer's parents are in the front row on her side, and we thought, with Mom gone, it seemed weird to have you sitting there alone. And Jennifer's family is pretty big. Her mom has 4 sisters, and they all need to be up front. My wife had died 6 years ago. Cancer. I'd held her hand through 18 months of chemotherapy and radiation. I'd been there at the end when she looked up at me and said, Take care of them. Promise me. I'd promised. I see, I said. You understand, right? It's just logistics. It doesn't mean anything. Sure, David, I understand. I hung up and stared at the invitation for a long time. Then I called Walter. I need you to do something for me, I said. Something complicated. Christmas came and went. Nobody invited me anywhere. Sarah sent a text on Christmas Eve saying they were spending the holiday with Mike's family. David didn't contact me at all. I spent Christmas Day working in my garage and eating takeout Chinese food. My phone stayed silent. On New Year's Eve, Jennifer called. Not David. Jennifer. Dad Thompson? It's Jennifer. Listen, we need to talk about something important. What's that? Well, David and I have been discussing our future, and we've realized we need more space. Not just for us, but for you too, eventually. We've been thinking maybe you could move in with us. Not right away, but soon. We could turn the basement into a nice suite for you. You'd have your own entrance, privacy, but you'd be close by if you needed anything. And my house? Well, obviously you'd sell it. But here's the thing. We found a place we love. It's perfect. But we need to act fast. The market is hot right now. So we were thinking, maybe you could give us the equity from your house now, and then when you're ready to move in with us, your room will be all set up. You want me to give you the money from my house before I sell it? It's not giving, Dad Thompson. It's more like an advance on your estate. Everything would be formalized with lawyers. You'd have documents showing we owe you, but it would help us get into this house before someone else grabs it. An advance on my estate while I'm still alive. Exactly. It makes perfect financial sense. And this way, you wouldn't have to worry about maintaining that big old house anymore. You could relax, enjoy your retirement. I closed my eyes. Let me think about it. Well, don't think too long. Like I said, this house won't last. She hung up. I sat in the darkness of my living room and remembered teaching David to ride a bike in the driveway, teaching Sarah to drive in the empty parking lot behind the high school, reading them bedtime stories, holding them when they cried. I remembered all of it, every moment, every sacrifice. Then I picked up my phone and sent a text to the number from November. Phase 2. Make it count. The response came within minutes. Consider it done. The ceremony is in 3 days, correct? Correct. They won't see it coming. I didn't respond. I sat alone in my house and waited. David's bachelor party was that Saturday. They didn't invite me to that either. Sunday morning, my doorbell rang at 8 a.m. I opened it to find a man in his mid-40s standing on my porch. He wore a dark suit and carried a leather briefcase. His face was hard, professional. Mr. Thompson? Yes. My name is Richard Kane. I'm a private investigator. May I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to my living room and set his briefcase on the coffee table. I've completed the background check you requested, he said, pulling out a thick folder. On Jennifer Marie Westbrook, soon to be Jennifer Thompson. And you were right to be suspicious. Your son's fiancée has a history. 3 previous engagements, all broken off within months of the wedding date. Each time she convinced her fiancé to make significant financial investments, joint property purchases, business ventures. Then she'd leave and keep whatever assets she could claim. He laid out photographs, documents, bank statements. In 2019, she was engaged to a man named Brian Mills. He bought them a condo in Seattle, put both names on the deed. She left him 2 weeks before the wedding and sued for her half. He ended up having to sell and give her $200,000. And David knows none of this. Your son knows what she's told him, which is very little. Kane pulled out more papers. There's more. She's been in contact with a real estate attorney. I have emails. She's already planning how to structure the property ownership after the wedding. Your house comes up repeatedly. I looked at the evidence spread across my coffee table. What about the fertility treatments? Kane smiled grimly. There are no fertility treatments. She's been on birth control the entire time she's been with David. I confirmed it with her pharmacy records. How did you get those? You don't want to know. He closed the folder. My advice? Show this to your son now. Before the wedding. Save him from making a mistake. No, I said. No? I'll handle it my way. Can you have copies of everything delivered to the wedding venue? I'll tell you where and when. Kane studied my face. You're planning something. I'm protecting my family. Your son won't thank you. I don't need his thanks. Kane packed up his briefcase. At the door, he turned back. There's one more thing. Jennifer's been in contact with an elder law attorney. She's been asking about conservatorships, power of attorney, how to have someone declared mentally incompetent. The words hit like fists. She's planning to have me declared incompetent? The emails suggest she's exploring options. Once she's legally your daughter-in-law, it becomes easier to make a case, especially if you're living in her home, under her care. I thanked him and closed the door. My hands were steady now, crystal clear. I knew exactly what I had to do. The wedding was at a country club 40 minutes outside the city. 300 guests. Jennifer had insisted on roses, white roses, everywhere. The cost was astronomical. I'd paid for half of it. I arrived early, before the guests. I wore my best suit, the one I'd worn to my wife's funeral. Dark blue, perfectly tailored. I looked like what I was, a man with nothing left to lose. The event coordinator found me in the parking lot. Mr. Thompson, we weren't expecting you for another hour. I need to see the seating chart. She hesitated. Well, I suppose that's fine. Follow me. I followed her inside. The country club was elegant, expensive, everything Jennifer had wanted. The seating chart was on a huge board in the lobby. I found my name. 3rd row, aisle seat. Far from my son. Far from everything that mattered. Is this correct? I asked the coordinator. She checked her clipboard. Yes, sir. That's what the bride requested. I see. I pulled an envelope from my jacket. I need you to give this to David, before the ceremony. It's important. Sir, we really can't. I placed $500 on her clipboard. "It's very important," I said again. She took the money and the envelope. "Before the ceremony, I'll make sure he gets it." I walked outside to wait. The guests started arriving at 1 p.m. I watched them from a bench near the parking lot. Sarah showed up with Mike, both of them dressed like they were going to a movie premiere. She saw me and looked away quickly. At 1:30, I got the text from Kane. "Package delivered to the bride's suite, as requested." At 1:45, I heard screaming from inside the country club. The doors burst open, and Jennifer came running out, still in her bathrobe, makeup half done. She was holding papers, Kane's folder. Her face was red and twisted with rage. "You!" she screamed when she saw me. "You did this!" Guests turned to stare. The photographer started snapping pictures. "I don't know what you mean," I said calmly. "These lies, these fake documents. You're trying to ruin my wedding." David appeared behind her, his tuxedo jacket unbuttoned, his face pale. "Dad, what is this? Jennifer says you hired someone to investigate her." "I did." "Why would you do that?" "Because I wanted to know who my son was marrying." I stood up from the bench. "And now I know. Now you know too." "It's all lies," Jennifer shouted. "He made it up. He's jealous. He's crazy. David, don't listen to him." "The documents are real," I said. "The bank statements, the court records, the emails, everything can be verified. But you don't have to take my word for it. Call Brian Mills. Call the two men before him. Ask them what happened." David looked at the papers in Jennifer's hands, then at me, then at her. "Is this true? Were you engaged 3 times before?" "It's not. I can explain. He's manipulating everything." "Did you talk to a lawyer about having my father declared incompetent?" Jennifer's face changed. The rage disappeared, replaced by something calculating. "That was just research. I was worried about him. He's been acting strange." "Acting strange," I repeated, "because I wouldn't give you my house." People were gathering now, guests in expensive clothes watching the drama unfold. Sarah pushed through the crowd. "What's going on?" she demanded. I handed her a copy of Kane's report. "Read it." She skimmed the pages, her face going white. "Oh my God, David, you can't marry her." "Shut up, Sarah," Jennifer snapped. "This is none of your business. She tried to have Dad declared incompetent. She's been planning to take everything." Mike appeared, always the lawyer. "Everyone calm down. Let's go inside and discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss," Jennifer said. She turned to David, her voice suddenly soft, pleading. "Baby, you know me. You know I love you. This is your father trying to control your life. He can't stand that you chose me over him." "I never asked him to choose," I said quietly. David looked at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. "Dad, did you really hire a private investigator?" "Yes." "Why didn't you just talk to me? Would you have listened?" He opened his mouth, closed it. We both knew the answer. Jennifer grabbed his arm. "David, we can fix this. We can still get married today. Your father can leave right now. We'll never see him again. We'll have the life we planned. Without my father. He obviously doesn't support us. Look what he did. He hired someone to spy on me. He's trying to sabotage our wedding. Is that the kind of person you want in your life?" David pulled away from her. "I need some time to think." "There is no time. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Everyone is here. I've been planning this for a year." "Then maybe," David said slowly, "we should postpone." Jennifer's face went purple. "Postpone? Are you insane? Do you know how much this cost? How much your father owes us?" "Owes you. Owes us. He's been holding back money. Money that should be ours. That house should be ours. Everything should be ours." Her voice rose to a shriek. "I've wasted 2 years on you and your pathetic family. 2 years I could have spent finding someone better, someone whose father isn't a paranoid psychopath." The crowd had gone completely silent. David stared at her like he'd never seen her before. I think, he said carefully, we're done here. Fine. Jennifer threw the papers at him. Fine, keep your broke-ass father and your sad little life. I'm leaving, and I'm keeping the ring. She stormed back inside. We heard more screaming, the sound of something breaking. David sank down onto the bench where I'd been sitting. He put his head in his hands. I sat beside him. Sarah stood in front of us, still holding the report. I'm sorry, David whispered. Dad, I'm so sorry. I know, son. I should have listened to you. I should have seen it. She was good at what she did. She wanted to have you declared incompetent. She wanted your house. And I almost let her. I put my hand on his shoulder. But you didn't. Sarah knelt in front of her brother. David, we've been terrible. Both of us. We forgot. We forgot everything Dad did for us. The Hawaii trip, David said. Jesus, Dad, the Hawaii trip. What were we thinking? You weren't, I said simply. Inside the country club, we could hear Jennifer screaming at the staff, demanding her deposit back. The photographer was still taking pictures, capturing every moment of the disaster. What do we do now? Sarah asked. I stood up. Now we go home, all of us. We drove in silence to my house. David rode with me, Sarah followed with Mike. When we got there, I unlocked the door and we all filed inside. The house was quiet, clean. I'd spent the morning making sure everything was perfect, just in case. Dad, David said, I need to explain. Sit down first. We gathered in the living room. I went to the kitchen and brought out coffee, some cookies I'd bought at the store. Simple things. Normal things. I want to tell you something, I said. About your mother. They both looked up. To protect you. I said yes because that's what I'd been doing your whole lives anyway, but I was wrong. Wrong? Sarah asked. I protected you too much. I never let you fail. I never let you struggle. When you needed money, I gave it. When you made bad decisions, I fixed them. I thought that's what being a good father meant. I set down my coffee cup. But what I created were two adults who expected everything to be handed to them, who thought they deserved whatever they wanted just because they wanted it, who couldn't see past their own needs. Dad, David started. Let me finish. When you uninvited me from Hawaii, something broke. I realized I'd failed you. Not because I was a bad father, but because I'd been too good of one. I'd given you everything without teaching you the value of anything. Sarah was crying now. We were horrible to you. Yes, I said. You were. But you learned. That's what matters. How? Mike spoke up. How did you know about Jennifer? Because a man I used to work with 20 years ago helped me. His name is Kane. Richard Kane. He's a private investigator. When David first mentioned Jennifer wanted me to sell my house, something felt wrong. So I asked Kane to look into it. It took him 3 months to find everything. 3 months, David repeated. You've known for 3 months? Yes. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was a bitter old man trying to control your life? David's silence was the answer. I had to let you see it yourself. Had to let her show you who she really was. If I'd told you earlier, she would have turned you against me completely. You'd have married her anyway, just to prove me wrong. That's probably true, David admitted. So I waited. I gathered evidence. I made sure that when the moment came, the truth couldn't be denied. Sarah wiped her eyes. Dad, I still don't understand about Hawaii. The money, the canceled tickets. How did you do that so fast? I called the bank at midnight. I called the airline at 6 a.m. I'd been planning it since you told me I wasn't invited. I just needed to decide if I had the courage to follow through. But the credit cards, David's car loan, how did you get out of those? Walter, my attorney, everything I co-signed as a favor, not a requirement. Walter explained to me that I had the right to remove my name at any time as long as I wasn't breaking any contracts. And I wasn't. I was just withdrawing my guarantee. "You must hate us," Sarah whispered. "No," I said. "I love you. That's why I did it. That's why I fought back. Because loving someone means not letting them destroy themselves, even if they hate you for it." We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, David spoke. "What happens now?" "Now? Now you both go home. You fix your own messes. You pay your own bills. You live your own lives. And maybe someday, when you've figured out who you really are, we can be a family again." "That's it?" Sarah asked. "You're just sending us away?" "I'm letting you grow up. Something I should have done years ago." They left just as the sun was setting. I watched from the window as they got in their cars, as they drove away. My house was quiet again, empty again. But this time the emptiness felt different, cleaner somehow. I poured myself a bourbon and sat in my study. The leather address book was still in the bottom drawer. I pulled it out and flipped through the pages. So many names, so many connections from my old life. The life before kids, before sacrifice, before I forgot who I was. My phone buzzed. A text from Kane. "Job completed. Payment received. If you need anything else, you know where to find me." I typed back. "Thank you. For everything. Anytime." I deleted the conversation and closed the address book. Some chapters end, some doors close. That's how life works. 3 months passed. I didn't hear from Sarah or David. I went about my life, worked in my garage, had dinner with old friends I'd neglected for years. The house felt bigger, quieter, but not lonely. There's a difference between alone and lonely. I was learning that difference. Then one Sunday afternoon, my doorbell rang. David stood on the porch holding a toolbox. "Hey, Dad." "David, I noticed last time I was here that your gutter was loose. On the north side. I thought maybe I could fix it for you." I looked at my son. He'd lost weight. There were circles under his eyes. He looked older somehow. "Sure," I said. "I'd appreciate that." We worked in silence for an hour. He fixed the gutter, then noticed the loose board on the deck, then the squeaky hinge on the garage door. I handed him tools, held the ladder steady. We didn't talk about the wedding or Jennifer or any of it. When we finished, I made sandwiches. We ate at the kitchen table. "She kept the ring," David said finally. $20,000. She refused to give it back. "I know." "You know?" "Walter filed a lawsuit. You should get it back in a few months." David stared at me. "You? When did you do that?" "The day after the wedding." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you needed to handle your own problems first. The ring was my problem. I paid for it." "Dad, I don't deserve—" "Probably not. But we don't get what we deserve in life. We get what we earn. So start earning." He nodded slowly. "I've been seeing a therapist. Jennifer really messed me up, made me doubt everything, made me think you were the problem." "I was part of the problem." No, you weren't. You were the only one who saw through her, the only one who protected me. That's my job. I'm 31 years old, Dad. It shouldn't be your job anymore. Being a father doesn't have an expiration date." David's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. For everything. For Hawaii. For Jennifer. For trying to take your house. I'm so sorry." "I know, son. How do I fix this?" "You're already fixing it. One gutter at a time." He laughed, a wet sound. "One gutter at a time. That's very philosophical." "I'm old. I'm allowed to be philosophical." "You're not old. You're 56. Tell that to Jennifer. She had me in assisted living already." We both laughed then. It felt good, laughing with my son again. "Does Sarah know you're here?" I asked. "Yeah. She wants to come by too, but she's scared. She thinks you hate her." "I don't hate her." "I'll tell her that." David stood up, carried his plate to the sink. Can I come back next weekend? There's some other stuff that needs fixing, and I thought maybe we could watch the game. I'd like that. He left. I watched him drive away and felt something shift in my chest. Something small but significant. Maybe this was healing. Maybe this was forgiveness. Or maybe it was just a father and son figuring out how to be human together. Sarah came by the following Wednesday. She brought flowers and a card. I wrote you a letter, she said, handing me the envelope. Everything I wanted to say but couldn't. I thought maybe it would be easier if you could read it instead of me having to say it all. You don't have to. Please, Dad. Just read it later, when I'm not here. I took the envelope. Okay. Mike and I are going to counseling, she said. Marriage counseling. Turns out when you treat your father like garbage, it reflects on how you treat everyone else too. I'm glad you're getting help. We're selling the boat, the one we bought instead of going to Hawaii. Turns out we never used it. Just sat in storage costing us money every month. That's smart. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. All right. Did you ever think about just walking away? From me and David? Just cutting us off completely? I considered lying, making her feel better, but she'd asked for honesty. Yes, I said. The night you left for the airport. I thought about packing a bag and leaving, starting over somewhere else, letting you both figure it out without me. Why didn't you? Because I made a promise to your mother, and because underneath all the anger and hurt, I still believed you could be better. You could learn. You just needed the right push. The right push, she repeated. You mean you needed to destroy our lives? I didn't destroy your lives. I disrupted them. There's a difference. Is there? Your lives are still here. You're still standing. You're still functioning. You're just functioning without my money and my blind support. That's not destruction. That's reality. Sarah sat down on the couch, pulling her knees up to her chest like she used to do when she was little. I miss Mom. Me too. She would have been so disappointed in us. She would have been proud that you're trying to fix it. Would she? Yes. Your mother believed in second chances. Sometimes third and fourth chances, too. Sarah wiped her eyes. Can I ask you about Jennifer? About the investigation? What do you want to know? Did you enjoy it? Catching her? Exposing her at the wedding? I thought about that. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was necessary, but not enjoyable. Your brother was going to marry someone who would have destroyed him, who would have taken everything from our family. I couldn't let that happen. But the way you did it, in front of everyone, that was brutal. It was the only way she'd show her true colors. She was too good at pretending. She needed to lose control completely, and that only happened when she thought she was losing everything. Sarah nodded slowly. David told me about the ring lawsuit, that you're trying to get it back for him. I am. Thank you. You don't need to thank me for protecting my son. Yes, I do, because after how we treated you, most fathers would have walked away. She stood up. I should go. Mike's waiting in the car. He was too nervous to come in. Tell him he's welcome here any time. Really? Really. She hugged me at the door. A real hug, not the stiff, obligatory kind from before. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. After she left, I opened the envelope. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten. Her handwriting was still messy, just like when she was in school. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Some things are worth keeping. 6 months after the wedding that never was, I got a call from Kane. Just thought you'd want to know. Jennifer Westbrook got engaged again. Some finance guy in Boston. 6 months. She works fast. Does he know about her history? I sent him an anonymous package. What he does with it is his business. Thank you, Richard. Just looking out. By the way, I heard your son's lawsuit went through. He getting his ring back? Next week. Good, that's good. A pause. How are things with your kids? Better, slowly better. That's all you can ask for. After I hung up, I thought about Jennifer. About the next man she'd fool, the next family she'd try to infiltrate. Some people never learn. Some people are just broken in ways that can't be fixed. But my kids were learning. That was something. David came by every weekend now. We'd work on projects around the house, watch football, eat dinner together. He was dating again, slowly, taking his time, being careful. Sarah and Mike were doing better too. They'd sold the boat, paid off some debt. She'd started calling me twice a week, just to talk. Nothing important, just life. That's how I knew things were really changing. When the calls weren't about needing something, just about connecting. One Saturday in late spring, I was in the garage when both my kids showed up together. That was unusual. "Dad," Sarah said, "we have something to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. We wanted to say something. Together." David stepped forward. "We've been talking. About everything that happened. About how we treated you. And we realized we never really apologized. Not properly." "You both apologized." "We said sorry," Sarah interrupted, "but we never acknowledged what we really did. We tried to steal from you, Dad. We tried to take your home. We excluded you from our lives while expecting you to fund them. We were parasites." "You weren't." "We were," David said firmly. "And worse, we let other people convince us it was okay. Jennifer, Mike's family, our friends, everyone telling us we deserved more, we deserved your money, your house, your everything. And we listened because it's what we wanted to hear." Sarah pulled an envelope from her purse. "This is a check. It's not everything we owe you, not even close. But it's a start. It's every penny we can spare right now, $22,000. We're paying you back, Dad. For Hawaii, for the wedding deposits, for everything." I stared at the check. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, we do," David said. "Because until we pay our own way, we're still children. We're still dependent. We're still the people who uninvited you from Hawaii." I took the check, but I didn't look at it. I looked at them, my children. Adults now, really adults, maybe for the first time. "I'm proud of you both," I said. Sarah started crying. Don't be proud yet. We have so far to go. That's why I'm proud, because you're willing to go the distance." We stood in the garage, the three of us, and for the first time in years, we felt like a family again. Not perfect, not healed, but real. That summer, we scattered my wife's ashes. She'd wanted them spread in the mountains, at a place we used to camp when the kids were little. We'd been putting it off for 6 years, always finding excuses. Too busy, too painful, too complicated. But Sarah found the urn in my closet one day and said, "It's time, Dad." So we drove up to the mountains, the three of us. We hiked 2 miles to the campsite, carrying her ashes and memories too heavy to name. "I don't remember much about these trips," David admitted. "I was pretty young." "You were 7 the last time we came here," I said. "Sarah was 9. You caught your first fish in that stream over there. You were so excited you fell in trying to grab it." Sarah laughed. "I remember that. Mom had to dry your clothes over the fire." "She sang campfire songs that night," I said. "Badly. Your mother couldn't carry a tune to save her life." "But she sang anyway," Sarah added softly. We reached the peak just as the sun started setting. The view was exactly as I remembered. Mountains stretching forever, sky turning orange and purple. "Should we say something?" David asked. "Your mother hated formal speeches," I said. "She'd want us to just be here, with her." So we were. We opened the urn and let the wind take her ashes across the valley. We didn't cry. We just stood there, 3 people who'd lost their way but were finding it again, saying goodbye to the woman who'd held us together. "I wish she could see us now," Sarah whispered. "See that we're trying." "She can," I said. Wherever she is, she knows. We hiked back down in darkness, using flashlights. At the car, David turned to me. Dad, I need to tell you something. I've been offered a job in Seattle. My heart sank. Seattle. It's a great opportunity, but it means leaving, being far away. And after everything, after finally fixing things with you, I don't know if I should take it. Take it, I said immediately. But, David, this isn't about me. This is about your life, your career. You can't stay here out of guilt. It's not guilt, I don't want to lose this. Lose us, again. You won't. We have phones, we have planes. Distance doesn't mean disconnection, not anymore. Sarah put her hand on his shoulder. Dad's right. You should go, we'll be okay. David looked between us, then nodded. Okay, I'll take it. We drove home in comfortable silence. At my house, they both hugged me goodbye. Long hugs, the kind that say everything words can't. After they left, I went inside and sat at my desk. I pulled out Sarah's letter and read it again. Then I took out a piece of paper and started writing my own letter. To both of them, everything I'd learned, everything I wanted them to know, about strength and weakness, about love and boundaries, about being human and flawed and trying anyway. I wrote for 3 hours. When I finished, I sealed the letter in 2 envelopes, one for each of them. I'd give them out at Thanksgiving. A new tradition. Letters instead of lectures. Connection instead of control. David moved to Seattle in August. Sarah and Mike bought a smaller house, something they could actually afford. I sold my motorcycle and used the money to take a trip to Ireland, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Life moved forward. It always does. Then October came, and with it, a phone call I wasn't expecting. Mr. Thompson, this is Officer Williams with the City Police Department. We have someone here who's asking for you. Who? Says her name is Jennifer Westbrook. She's been arrested for fraud and theft. She listed you as her emergency contact. I almost laughed. Officer, I'm not her emergency contact. I'm not anything to her. She's pretty insistent, sir. Says you're the only one who will understand. That you're the only one who can help her. Then she's wrong. So you don't want to come down to the station? I thought about it. About Jennifer sitting in a cell somewhere, probably scared, probably planning her next con. About the man in Boston who'd apparently figured out her game and called the police. About karma and consequences and all the things we tell ourselves matter. No, I said. I don't want to come down, but you can tell her something for me. What's that? Tell her I hope she learns something from this. Tell her it's never too late to change. And tell her to leave my family alone. Will do, sir. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. Then I called David. Hey, Dad. What's up? Just wanted to hear your voice. How's Seattle? Rainy, cold, amazing. I love it here, Dad. I really do. Good. That's good. You okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. Just thinking about your mother, about promises, about how we keep going even when it's hard. That's definitely weird, but okay. Hey, Sarah and I were talking. We want to fly you out here for Christmas. Both of us. We'll all be together in Seattle. What do you think? I think that sounds perfect. After we hung up, I walked out to the garage. The space where the motorcycle had been was empty now. I'd fill it with something else eventually. Maybe I'd take up woodworking, build furniture for my kids, for the grandchildren who might come someday. Or maybe I'd just leave it empty. Sometimes empty space is exactly what you need. Room to breathe, room to become. I thought about the last year, about the Hawaii trip that started everything, about standing in my kitchen while my daughter told me I'd slow them down, about the wedding that exploded in front of 300 guests, about the slow, painful process of rebuilding what had been broken. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I should have just talked to my kids, explained how I felt, worked it out like adults. but those people don't understand. Sometimes love means drawing a line. Sometimes love means letting people fail so they can learn to stand. Sometimes love means being the villain in someone else's story so they can become the hero in their own. My kids had needed to fall. They'd needed to face consequences. They'd needed to understand that the world doesn't revolve around them, that kindness has limits, that you can't build a life on someone else's sacrifice. And now they knew. Now they were different people. Better people. Not because I coddled them or enabled them or pretended everything was fine, but because I loved them enough to let them hurt. That's the thing about being a parent. The job never ends. It just evolves. From protecting them from the world to protecting them from themselves. From giving them everything to teaching them they don't need everything. From being their hero to being their mirror, showing them who they really are and who they could become. I went back inside and poured myself a bourbon. Good bourbon, the expensive kind I'd been saving. I sat in my study with the lights off and listened to the house settle around me. My house, my space, my life, no regrets, no doubts, just the quiet satisfaction of a man who'd done what needed doing. Thanksgiving came. Sarah and Mike hosted at their new place. It was smaller than their old house, cozier, more lived in, more real. David flew in from Seattle with a girlfriend, Rebecca. She was a teacher, soft-spoken and kind, nothing like Jennifer. When I shook her hand, David watched my face carefully, looking for approval. I smiled. He relaxed. We ate turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie. We told stories about their mother, about old holidays, about the time David set the kitchen on fire, trying to cook breakfast in bed for his mom's birthday. I was 11, he protested. How was I supposed to know you can't microwave eggs in the shell? Common sense? Sarah suggested. Says the girl who superglued her fingers together in high school. That was an accident, we laughed. Real laughter. The kind that comes from comfort and connection, not obligation. After dinner, I pulled out the letters. 2 envelopes, slightly worn now from being carried around for months. I wrote these after we scattered your mother's ashes, I said. I've been waiting for the right moment to give them to you. Sarah took hers carefully, like it might break. David held his, like it weighed 100 pounds. You don't have to read them now, I said, but someday, when you need to remember, they'll be there. What do they say? Sarah asked. They say I love you. They say I'm proud of you. They say the last year was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I'd do it again if I had to, because that's what parents do. We make the hard choices so our children can make better ones. Sarah wiped her eyes. David nodded slowly, understanding. Thank you, Dad, he said. For everything. For not giving up on us. Never, I said. I'll never give up on you. But I won't enable you either. That's the difference you both needed to learn. Mike cleared his throat. I owe you an apology, too. I encouraged a lot of the entitlement. I thought, as Sarah's husband, I was supposed to be on her side against everyone else. I didn't realize being on her side meant helping her be better, not helping her take advantage. You realize it now, I said. That's what matters. Rebecca spoke up quietly. I don't know if I should say this, but David told me everything, about the wedding, about Jennifer, about all of it, and I just want you to know, what you did took incredible courage. A lot of parents would have just let it happen, kept the peace. You risked everything to save your son. Any parent would do the same. No, she said firmly. They wouldn't. Most people avoid conflict. They let things slide. They enable bad behavior because it's easier. You didn't. You fought back. That's rare. I looked at David. He was looking at Rebecca the way I used to look at his mother, like she was the only person in the room, like she mattered more than anything. She's right, Dad, David said. You saved my life. Literally saved it. If I'd married Jennifer, she would have destroyed me. Financially, emotionally, everything. And I was too blind to see it. You see it now? Yeah, I do. We stayed up late that night, all of us, talking and laughing and being a family. The kind of family I'd always wanted us to be. Honest, connected, real. When everyone was gone and the house was clean, Sarah pulled me aside. Dad, can I tell you something? Always. Mike and I are trying. For a baby. We've been trying for a few months now. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm terrified, she admitted. Terrified I'll be a bad mother, that I'll mess them up the way I messed up. You won't. How do you know? Because you're aware of your mistakes. You're trying to be better. That's 90% of parenting right there. The other 10% is just showing up. She hugged me tight. If we have a daughter, we're naming her after Mom. She'd like that. After Sarah left, I sat alone in my study and thought about the year that had passed, about how much had changed, about how much had stayed the same. My phone buzzed, a text from David. Rebecca said yes. I asked her to marry me tonight after we left your house. Small wedding, just family, and Dad. You'll be in the front row, I promise, I texted back. Congratulations, son. I'm happy for you. Thank you for teaching me what love really looks like. Not the fairy tale version. The real version, where you fight for people even when they don't deserve it. You deserved it. You always did. You just needed to remember. I set down my phone and looked around my study. This room had seen so much. Planning, scheming, heartbreak, victory. It was all here, in these walls, in this space I'd carved out for myself. But tomorrow, I'd fill it with something new. Maybe I'd take down the old filing cabinets, bring in better light, turn it into something more open, more welcoming. A room for the future, instead of the past. Because that's what this year had taught me. The past matters, but it doesn't define you. You can honor where you've been while moving toward where you're going. You can love people and still hold them accountable. You can be strong and vulnerable, forgiving and firm. You can be human. Epilogue. Christmas in Seattle was cold and beautiful. David's apartment had a view of the water. We drank coffee and watched the ferries cross the bay. Rebecca cooked and Sarah helped, and Mike told terrible jokes that somehow got funnier the more he told them. On Christmas morning, we exchanged gifts. Small things, meaningful things. Sarah gave me a photo album she'd made, filled with pictures from when they were kids. David gave me a vintage motorcycle manual he'd found in a used bookstore. For when you buy another bike, he said. I'm not buying another bike. You will eventually. You're not the sitting still type. He was right. I probably would. I gave them each a key. What's this? Sarah asked. Key to my house, front door. You're always welcome. Always. But you have to knock first. They laughed, but they understood. Boundaries, respect, the foundation of any healthy relationship. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stood on David's balcony and looked out at the city. Lights everywhere, lives happening in every window. So many people, so many stories. So many parents and children figuring out how to love each other without destroying each other. I thought about Jennifer, probably in jail somewhere, or maybe she'd made bail and was already planning her next scheme. I thought about the wedding that never happened, the family that almost fell apart. I thought about Hawaii and credit cards and assisted living facilities. And I thought about now, about David's hand on my shoulder earlier, the easy affection, about Sarah's laughter, genuine and free, about the grandchild who might be coming, the new beginning waiting just around the corner. Some people might say I was too harsh, that I went too far. They might say a father should forgive everything, enable everything, sacrifice everything. But those people are wrong. A father's job isn't to be a doormat. It's to be a mirror, to show his children who they are, who they could be, and to love them enough to let them choose. Even if they choose wrong, even if it hurts. My children had chosen wrong, so I'd shown them the consequences, not with cruelty, not with violence, just with truth. Cold, clear, undeniable truth. And they'd learned. They'd grown. They'd become people their mother would be proud of. That was enough. That was everything. I went back inside where my family was sleeping, where my son was building a life with a woman who loved him for the right reasons, where my daughter was learning to be strong without being selfish. I'd fought for them. I'd risked losing them to save them. And it had worked. Some wars are won with armies, some are won with weapons. But the war I'd fought was won with boundaries, with consequences, with the simple act of refusing to enable self-destruction. I'd won by knowing when to help and when to step back, when to give and when to withhold, when to be soft and when to be steel. That's what real love looks like, not the pretty version from movies, the messy, complicated, sometimes painful version that actually saves people. I poured myself one last bourbon and raised it to the sky, to wherever my wife was watching. I kept my promise, I whispered. I took care of them, just not the way they expected. I drank and felt the warmth spread through my chest. Tomorrow we'd wake up and have breakfast together. Tomorrow we'd be a family, imperfect but trying. Tomorrow would come with all its complications and joys. But tonight, I was just a father who'd done what needed doing, who'd drawn the line, who'd said enough, and I'd do it all again in a heartbeat.